No crickets chirping, no tree frogs, no wind blowing, nothing. Besides me breathing, and then I saw it.
Nightmare Files.
This happened 2 years ago. My name is James, and my girlfriend at the time was Susie. Susie and I got into an argument about a girl who was just texting me about edibles. The girl just wanted to know who had edibles and the prices on them. I remember I used the bathroom, and after I came back to the living room, I saw Susie on my phone and she looked angry. She started asking questions about the girl. You know, regular questions. Am I cheating on her? Is she pretty? The most disturbing one was, if she was right here, right now, would I kiss her or my girlfriend? That was the PG version of what she really asked. I told her she texted me about edibles, and besides that, the girl doesn't even like guys. But I don't think my girlfriend knew that. So we continued to argue for about 20 minutes. I started to say this is stupid, and I remember looking at the clock and it was 11 p.m. Since she was staying over that night, I told her we should just stop fighting and try to get some sleep or watch a movie. We agreed and turned on a movie. We were watching Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. As we were watching the movie, I noticed she was on her phone typing fast and just really involved in her phone. Every time I leaned in a little closer to see what was going on, she would always move her phone away and just give me a cold shoulder. We continued watching the movie until I heard somebody at my door. I said, I wonder who that could be at this time. Again, I looked at the clock, and now it was 1 a.m. My mom was in her room asleep, but after she heard the doorbell, she woke up asking who that was. I told her I didn't know, but I was going to find out. So as I started going to the door, I heard whispering from my girlfriend, like she was on the phone or something. I didn't really pay attention to it, so I finally got to the door and I looked through the peephole. I was met with some tall dude, wearing mostly all black. I talked to him through the door, and I asked him, what do you want? He replies with, I'm just here to drop off a package. Sorry I'm late. And I was thinking, who delivers a package at 1 a.m? So I told him to leave, and he could come back some other time to deliver the package. He said no, in a deep, commanding voice. Just in that moment, my ex-girlfriend Susie comes walking towards me with a grin on her face. She says to me, so you're really not going to tell me who that girl was texting you? I explained that she wasn't anybody, and I didn't know her like that. And this is the wrong time to be asking me a question like that when there's somebody at the door I didn't know. Till this day, what she said still gives me the chills, just thinking about it. She said, the guy at the door, he's here to get rid of you. At first, I gave out a nervous laugh and said, that's not funny. She said, yeah, it is. Well, at least for me it is. As this was going on, the guy at the door kept messing with the door handle, trying to get in. So I was leaning up against the door, preventing him to come in. As I looked behind me, Susie was gone. A few seconds later, she comes back with a knife and said, either he's going to get you or I will. I started flipping out and thinking, what am I going to do? I can't die right here. Just in that moment, I heard a commanding voice saying, back away from the door or we'll shoot. I thought to myself, what the fuck? So I swung open the door, and there was the police. One of the police officers told Susie to drop the knife because when I took my eyes off of her and I opened the door, she was right behind me, like literally right behind me. But the officer saying that must have scared her, and she dropped the knife immediately. Apparently, while all this was going on, my mom called the cops and explained the situation the best she could. She pretended to be asleep so she wouldn't cause attention to herself and could get help as fast as she could. The police arrested both of them and took them to the station. Apparently the guy that was there was her cousin. And the whole time the movie was playing, she was texting him, telling him to come over and quote unquote, deal with me. I'm just happy that I'm still here today. My mom saved my life. I don't even want to imagine what they would have done with me. My name is Chris, and this happened to me in the late 1970s. I grew up in a poor neighborhood in Calgary, Alberta, and like most young kids, I had a number of friends from school and the neighborhood. I was 13 at the time, and this was right at the very beginning of the personal home computer revolution. You would hear about personal computers on the news all the time. However, no one actually owned a home computer, and it was almost like a story of science fiction to actually see one. One day, my friends started talking about this university professor who moved into one of our duplexes near our school. He was supposed to be a really cool guy who had all kinds of gadgets in his apartments, and he actually owned a personal computer. One afternoon, when walking home from school, I was crossing through a park near the professor's house. From the second floor balcony of the duplex, I saw some of my friends and they waved to me to come over, so I did. The teacher lived on the second floor of a 2-story duplex and looked the part of a teacher with shaggy hair, beard, and glasses. At the time, I was too young and naive to see the warning signs about this guy. He lived alone in a 3-bedroom duplex apartment. He said he had a girlfriend, but we never actually saw any woman ever at the apartment when me and my friends were there. He had a lot of weird-looking camera equipment and developed his own film. Most importantly, he was a computer science teacher when the field was pretty brand new, and he had built a home computer from scratch. My friends and I thought he was the coolest guy we ever met. He had all kinds of games on his computer, and he allowed any of the young guys in the neighborhood to pop by and play on his computer. He also had all kinds of weird gadgets and experiments. He had one of those Jacob Ladder lightning arc gadgets you'd see in those old horror movies. He always seemed to have some new gadget he was making. It wasn't long before we were going over this teacher's house to play on the computers or see his weird gadgets all the time. Sometimes he'd get very physical and grab one of us from behind and bear hug us when he was greeting us. Or he'd stand uncomfortably close to us. After a few months, we were getting suspicious about this guy, and he didn't seem to have any family or friends. Sometimes, when there were a lot of kids at his apartment, and he was distracted, we would snoop around and look in his cabinets and things like that. We'd find weird items like a pair of brass knuckles, handcuffs, and some beads that looked like they were supposed to be white, but they had dried up brown stuff on them. And the door to his bedroom was always locked. One day, when there was a lot of kids there, he put on some music. He always puts on music, but this time it wasn't top 40 music like he usually would put on. It was like folk music of some kind. My buddy and I were already suspicious at this point, and while everyone was having fun on the computer or hanging with the teacher, we listened to the lyrics of the music. It was hard to make out the lyrics over all the raised voices in the room, but it became very clear that the lyrics was about homosexuality. My buddy and I freaked out, as it hit us at the same time that this guy might like kids in a way that wasn't right. We quickly made an excuse to leave, and went home and told our parents of our suspicions. My father freaked out, and told us never to go over that guy's place again. We also put the word out on the street, and pretty quickly everyone became weary of this guy. However, one of my friends from our block, Danny, he thought we were all wrong, and he kept going to see this teacher. One day, Danny stopped coming to school, and the rumor was that something bad happened to him by that guy with the computers. Danny moved away, and not long after, so did the teacher. I can't tell you how lucky me and my buddies felt to have stopped going to that guy's house before something happened to us. Years later, when I was in my early 20s, I took a course at the university on computer programming. One night, my buddy and I were in a computer lab, and we were testing out a new program I wrote. When who walks into the lab? That old guy. This time, both my buddy and I stood up and yelled at that guy to get away from us. He quickly left, and other people in the lab asked what was going on. We told him what happened years ago. I don't know if someone reported him, but we never saw him at the university again after that. My name is Chris, and this took place 4 years ago when I was 17. It was a cold December day, and I made plans with my buddy to hang out for the night. So I got off of work at around 6 p.m., and it was already getting dark outside. On my way to my car, I noticed a car in the parking lot just sitting there, but the windows were so tinted that I didn't think anyone was in it. So I proceeded to go to my car. So I get set to go home. I start my car, then I looked over at the car again, and this time, I saw it had the lights on. But I didn't think anything of it, so I pulled off and went home. As I get home, I see the same car going down my street. I remember telling myself, okay, this is weird. But again, I didn't think anything of it. I went inside my house and then took a shower. I got ready for the night. I left, and I normally don't drive to my friend's place, but it was 2 blocks away. So I decided on walking. I went on to my friend's house, and I told him about what happened. He told me that was odd, but we began smoking and playing some music when we noticed a car rolling down the street, and it parked. It was too dark to tell the color of the car, so he just assumed it was his neighbor. We continued on with our night, and it was about 1 a.m. Then I left. I shook his hand and said, "See you later." He said, "Be safe," and I began on my 5 to 10 minute journey. When I started walking up the block, a car started and began pulling out. I didn't pay attention to it because what were the chances something was up with that car? However, I started speed walking, and that's when the car sped up and pulled up right next to me. I didn't hesitate at all, and I started running. But before I did, 3 people got out of the car and they yelled, "Hey." When I looked at them, they all had on black, and they were wearing some sort of mask or something. While I was running, I heard the car doors slam, and the driver started speeding up. I was only 2 blocks away, but I wasn't going straight back to my house to lead them there. So I took a back street and I kept running. This is where the situation became bad to worse. One of them yelled out the window and said, "If you don't stop running, we'll shoot." I didn't know what they wanted with me. I was just scared for my life. So I hopped the fence and I dipped into somebody's backyard. The people stopped and started to look for me, but I was hidden beside a bush and I just stayed quiet. They had their phones out using it as a light source, but the homeowner turned their lights on the account of hearing noises outside. The homeowner came out and saw the people and said, "I'm calling the police." The people wearing the mask hopped back in their car and sped off. After they left, I came out of the bush and I scared the homeowner. I explained the situation and we both laughed. The homeowner was a nice elderly man that invited me in for some water and to wait for the police. The police finally got there and we both explained to them what had happened. It turns out that these people were roaming around the area robbing people, and they wore masks to conceal their identities. This isn't the first time the police heard of this. I thanked the elderly man, and the cops gave me a ride home. I got home and locked all my doors and got in bed. All I have to say is, just be sure you check your surroundings because you never know who may be watching you. I live in a woodland area where there's only 5 houses that are around me. So when the night falls, I'm used to seeing the glowing eyes of animals, hearing the sound of twigs and leaves crunching from animals, and yes, the calls too. But this event is still carved into my mind. Back on June 23rd of 2017, and around midnight, my cat wanted to go outside because he had to go use the bathroom, and we didn't like for him to use the litter box. Now, my cat usually spends around 15 to 20 minutes outside, which is usual for her because she loves to play out there. But when I went to the front door to let her in, since it was time to let her in, she wasn't there. It was about 1 in the morning, and I get a little worried, so I go outside and I called her name. So I walk around my front yard, and then I find her, sitting there, looking out into the woods. Nothing too serious, she probably just saw a possum go by. But that's not it. That's not it at all. As soon as I leaned back up, everything went silent. No crickets chirping, no tree frogs, no wind blowing, nothing. Besides me breathing, and then I saw it. A black, tall figure, roughly around 6 to 7 feet tall, dart behind the trees. I picked up my cat and I sprinted to the house. We went inside, locked all the doors, turned off all the lights besides the hallway, and I grabbed my flashlight and went back to where I saw that thing. And at the same spot, all the noises came back, and I shined the light where the black, tall figure was. Nothing. I asked one of my neighbors if they were in our yard. He asked me, why the hell would I be in your yard? I went back home and I still questioned if it was a person, a shadow creature, or just my mind playing a trick on me. To this day, I still wonder if it was something or someone in my yard.